a story of a cow who gave birth to a human baby on the day of Eid al-Adha. That cow was screaming in pain and suffering. Then Allah Ta'ala gave her the power of speech, and she revealed the whole secret. She narrated the story of oppression done to her to all the villagers. Everyone was stunned. Listen to this story till the end. Mirpur village was a peaceful small village. Mud roads, clay houses, and surrounded by fields on all sides. It was the time when the arrival of Eid al-Adha had brought a mood of busyness and joy everywhere. A fair had been set up. People were buying sacrificial animals. Seeing the children's joy, it felt as if Aqd had already begun. The air of the village was filled with the fragrance of happiness. There was a festive atmosphere everywhere. In this joyful environment, there was also a happy moment in Maryam's house. Her husband had bought a very special and beautiful cow, a white, high-quality breed, not only beautiful, but different in behavior too. It would go to the field by itself and return on its own in the evening. Maryam cared for that cow like her own child. She would feed it grass and give water with her own hands. And when the cow ate from her hand, a peaceful smile would appear on Maryam's face. The whole village was praising that cow. Everyone came to see it. But where there is joy, there also falls the eyes of the jealous. Maryam's neighbor Hazra also came to see the cow that day. She was smiling and speaking sweetly from the outside, but her eyes were filled with envy, jealousy, and some hidden secrets. That day she came to know that Maryam was pregnant. Hearing this news, it felt like a fire was lit in her heart. Maryam had only come to this village 1 year ago after her marriage. New house, new village. Most people were strangers to her. But Hazra, she was her neighbor, and the closest one too. Yet she had never accepted Maryam from her heart. That day, even though she left with a smile, at night when the whole village was asleep, Hazra silently slipped out through the back door of her house. Her face was hidden in the dark, and with soundless steps she quickly made her way toward the jungle. After walking quite a distance, she arrived in front of an abandoned hut. The hut was made of mud and straw. Hazra looked around and then quickly went inside. Inside, a woman was sitting. Wrapped in black cloth, loose hair, red eyes, a frightening face, and a strange weight hanging around her neck. Seeing Hazra, she slowly said, "You came, Hazra?" Hazra immediately sat at her feet and said in a trembling voice, "Bibiji, I have come. You said if I bring you a sacrifice, you would grant me a child. My husband wants to leave me. My mother always scolds me. Please do something." The woman remained silent for a while, then gave a devilish laugh and said, "Come again tomorrow, and you know what you have to do. Remember everything, or the result will be very terrible." Hazra stood up in fear and quickly set off toward home. Her heart was pounding all the way. She was scared someone might see her, but when she reached home, everyone was asleep. The next morning she again came to Maryam's house. This time, while talking and smiling, she said, "You're going to be a mother now." Maryam shyly nodded and said, "Yes, Alhamdulillah. Please pray for me." Though Hazra was smiling while talking, the fire and jealousy inside her could not hide the envy on her face. The next night, when the village was once again deep in sleep, Hazra silently came out of her house again. Her steps were swift, her eyes alert, and her mind had only one goal. The work must be completed tonight. She went straight to that hut where the terrifying woman had sat the night before. Entering the hut, Hazra sat down on the ground in front of her. There was silence for a while. Then Hazra put her hand inside her shawl and took out some gold jewelry and placed it in front of the woman. "Bibi, please take this. Let my work be done now. My husband can't bear any more, and I can no longer tolerate Maryam's smile." The woman took a deep breath and laughed, saying, "Yes, finally you are ready." All right, now be prepared for your fate." Then she opened an old dusty box in front of her. From the box she took out some amulets, some papers with strange designs, and a small pouch. She chanted something quietly for a while, then whispered something in Hazra's ear. Hazra nodded her head, and a peaceful, satisfied smile appeared on her face. "Your work is done," the woman said one last time. Hazra quickly stepped out and headed straight toward Miriam's house. Miriam's yard was quiet at that time, and the cow was peacefully sitting near the edge of the neighborhood. But as Hazra approached, the cow raised its head and looked at her, as if sensing something, some invisible danger, some silent conspiracy. Hazra looked around once, then took out a powder-like substance from her pocket, which was given to her by that woman, and she mixed it quietly into the cow's food. She silently placed that food in front of the cow. The cow sniffed it once and stepped back slightly, but then, out of hunger, it ate the food. Then Hazra took that pouch which contained amulets and some kind of dust, and she dug a soft spot beside Miriam's door and buried it right there, exactly where Miriam often sat during the day. Then, with a devilish smile, she turned and headed toward her home. She believed now everything would change. The next morning the sun had not yet fully risen, when Miriam suddenly felt a strange pain in her stomach. Restless, she opened her eyes and clutched her belly in agony, twisting in pain. Her husband became worried and quickly said, "Let's go, Miriam. We need to visit Dair Amma. This pain doesn't feel right." Before they could finish speaking, suddenly a painful cry was heard from outside. A sound as if some animal was writhing in pain, crying. Majid and Miriam rushed outside. The scene they saw in the yard was terrifying. The cow was sitting on the ground. Tears were clearly rolling down from its eyes, and it kept turning its head, looking at its belly again and again. It seemed like it was in deep pain. Miriam trembled at that sight. Majid immediately said, "It's definitely sick, or someone's evil eye has affected it." He ran and brought the village Hakim. After a while, the Hakim came and did a full examination of the cow. He checked its eyes, pressed its belly. Then, in a concerned tone, said, "Externally, everything seems fine. No fever, no swelling in the stomach. I will give some medicine. Inshallah, the cow will get better." Majid gave the medicine to the cow. But instead of improving, the cow's condition began to worsen. Now villagers also started coming. Everyone was shocked. How could such a beautiful and healthy cow, which was the center of everyone's attention just a few days ago, become so restless, weak, and sick? Some elders even noticed the cow's belly was swelling day by day, as if something strange was growing inside it. There were only a few days left for Qurbani, and Majid and Miriam's cow, which was supposed to be a matter of great blessing in their Qurbani, was now turning into the cause of worry. Majid called the Hakim again. He gave some more medicine and left. Majid and Miriam thought, maybe this time things would change. Meanwhile, Miriam's worry was growing about the cow, and elsewhere in a silent corner of the jungle, in that same hut, a different game was unfolding. In the dark old hut, that old woman sat silently, and in front of her an old midwife was sitting with her head lowered. That woman, whom the villagers called Dair Amma, who had helped bring many children into this world. Today her hands were ready to change an innocent soul's fate. The woman slowly stood up and pulled out a bundle of money from inside her clothes and placed it in front of the midwife. "You understand, by evening my work must be done." There was hidden urgency in her voice. The midwife took the notes in her hand. Then a wicked smile appeared on her face. She nodded and said, "Don't be afraid, Bibi. Your work will be done. No secrets have come out yet, and none will." The woman walked out of the hut laughing and said, "The game has now begun, and the result will be exactly what I want." Now, Only Dai Amma remained in the hut, but in her eyes was greed and darkness. Her gaze told the truth. A terrible game had truly begun. The next morning, when the soft sunlight spread across the village paths, Mariam went out, carrying an earthen pitcher on her head to fetch water from the pond. The air was slightly moist, and there was a strange silence, as if the entire environment was expressing grief over something. Near the pond, Mariam met two women. There was deep sorrow on their faces and signs of regret in their eyes. Mariam put the pitcher down and politely asked, "Is everything all right, sisters? You look worried." One of the women took a deep breath and said, "Oh, you don't know? Hakim Sahib's daughter. She was married off 2 years ago with much celebration. Allah had given her a baby boy. But unfortunately, the boy passed away right after birth." Hearing this, it felt like Mariam's heart sank. The joy faded from her face, and slowly from her lips came the words, "Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un." May Allah grant them patience. What a great test this is. Mariam returned home after fetching water, but her mind was restless. An unknown fear, a hidden worry, seemed to stab her heart like a knife, as if some unseen fear or untold news was reaching her. The next day began with the most mysterious and shocking event in the village's history. Mariam and Majid's eyes opened when a loud commotion outside their house started to rise. Both of them screamed in fear, opened the door, and what they saw in front of them took their breath away. That white cow was lying injured on the ground. Tears were falling from its eyes, and in front of it lay a newborn that looked like a human baby, as if it had just been born. The entire village gathered, stood there stunned. Some wiped their eyes and looked again. Some held their chests and remained silent. There was a mark on the cow's belly, like a surgical cut, as if someone had operated. But there was no blood, no screaming, only silent pain. Majid and Mariam stood shocked and spellbound. They couldn't understand anything. What kind of incident was this? Just then, Hazra's energetic voice was heard. "This is Babiji's miracle. She is a powerful woman. I had gone to her," she said. "You will get your baby through the cow." Everyone looked at Hazra in surprise. Some thought she had gone mad. But when they remembered the swelling of the cow's belly and its suffering, her words started to sink in. If she really was some sorceress, then how could a baby be born? Wasn't it Allah's mercy? People began to argue. Hazra lifted the baby and said, "This is my baby. Babiji has given him to me." Then she laughed and walked away through the crowd, silently heading home with the baby. Meanwhile, the cow was still groaning in pain, but the villagers had turned their attention elsewhere. Shehnaz Bibi, that wild-looking woman, had now arrived in the village. She had set up her place just outside the village. Within days, she began to attract followers. People started going to her door with their pain, problems, and hopes. Those without children started to see her as a messiah. And Shehnaz Bibi, in exchange, began taking jewelry, cash, animals, and photos from them. Now she, the woman who had started this evil game, had become the most respected and spiritually powerful figure in the village. No one knew what the truth was behind these so-called miracles. Shehnaz Bibi was now called Old Pirni Bibi across the village. The more ignorant the people were, the more they believed her words. People came to her door with jewelry, cash, and animals, and she, in return, promised to change their fate with each prayer and amulet. Meanwhile, Majid and Mariam were very worried and confused. They felt it was a conspiracy, but had no proof. There was no sound. The truth remained hidden. The cow was still with them, but it was no longer strong. It had become weak Its eyes showed pain and its face seemed to hide a complaint. Sometimes Majid felt that the cow wanted to say something, but its lips were sealed and a storm brewed inside. During this time, Maryam and Majid's health began to decline. Maryam started feeling dizzy, had terrifying dreams at night, and one day she lost her child. It was a devastating time for Maryam, but she held on to her faith in Allah, tears in her eyes, yet showing patience. Majid comforted her, but inside, he too was breaking. Then came the day of Eid ul-Adha. The entire village was submerged in the joy of celebration. Everyone was heading toward the field with their sacrificial animals, where everyone used to unite for Qurbani, gather together and pray. That was the rule of their village. After prayer, everyone gathered at the Qurbani field with their animals. Men, women, Majid and Maryam too brought their white cow, the one tied with a year's worth of love, sorrow, hope, and now sacrifice. They had only one prayer. O Allah, accept our sacrifice and show us the path through it. But today everything was about to change. Today not only the animals would be sacrificed, but a bloody line would be drawn between truth and falsehood. Today veils of secrets would be lifted. The Qurbani field was bustling with people, filled with the sounds of animals, prayers, and takbir. But today's sacrifice was special. People had invited Pirni Shenaz with great respect. Everyone said her arrival would bring blessings. Her prayers would ensure acceptance of the sacrifice, and those wanting children would not return empty-handed. The entire village had started to believe she was a friend of Allah. With pride in their eyes and fake prosperity on their faces, Hazra walked as if paving her way to greatness. At that moment, a loud cry was heard. Maryam's cow started crying loudly. Clear tears flowed from its eyes, a sound of suffering and deep pain. People turned in shock. Majid and Maryam panicked. Suddenly, a shift in the air was felt. Allah Ta'ala granted the cow the ability to speak. The one who had only endured pain was now ready to speak the truth. The cow shouted loudly, "O villagers, do not be fooled. This woman whom you believe to be a saint, she is a liar and deceiver. She practices black magic." Everyone's gaze turned to stone. The entire field fell silent. The cow began to speak the truth with her tongue. She said, "I did not give birth to a human baby. It was all a conspiracy. Hazra went to this woman. She cast a spell on me. I was fed to wheeze, spiritual charms, which caused the swelling and pain in my belly, and you all thought I was going to give birth. But that baby was Zarina's, whom the midwife had stolen and in the darkness of night placed beside me. The cut mark on my back, they themselves gave it. So, you would believe this was some kind of miracle. This woman is a fraud. She deceives in the name of Allah, and those who believe in people like her will not be spared from Allah's punishment." As soon as the cow finished speaking, its voice fell silent, but the field felt like it had been shaken by an earthquake. Every eye stood wide in shock. Every heart trembled with fear. And from every tongue came one sentence, "We have been deceived." Now all eyes turned toward Shehnaz Bibi. Her face had turned pale, her voice was lost. She could not believe that the deceit she had turned into power. Today Allah had revealed through the mouth of a cow. The villagers threw stones at her and drove her out of the village. They had only one slogan, "There is no place for such frauds in this village." Zarina ran and snatched her baby from Hazra's hands. Tears in her eyes, she said, "This is my child, a piece of my heart, whom you tried to sacrifice for your greed." The midwife too was cast out of the village. People insulted her and said, "For money you stole a mother's child and handed it to that wicked woman. You have no right to stay in this village.